This is the morning of the 13th of November. A clip put by CNN News 18, titled, Donald Trump tries and fails to derail Epstein vote. Wonder how much money he's offered these folks. This clip plays for, I believe, around 10 minutes. Let's have a listen.
Trump's last-minute crisis push to hide the Epstein files has failed. The President of the United States mounting a last-minute campaign to try to turn Republicans who had signed on to release the complete Epstein files, but they defied him. And tonight, the motion moves forward to a full House vote, something Speaker Johnson had delayed for nearly 2 months. Delayed this Epstein vote by nearly 2 months by refusing to swear in the newest member of Congress, Adelita Grijalva. And here's why, from the Republican who is leading the charge to release the Epstein files.
I've already had a couple Republicans tell my office privately that they're going to vote for it, and I think that could snowball.
Snowball. He's talking about the full vote, that tonight's move makes a reality, that vote is going to happen. He's talking about the full release of about 300 gigabytes of never-before-seen files about Jeffrey Epstein. And this comes as the House Oversight Committee today released a trove of explosive Epstein documents. Now, these new documents that we have show that Jeffrey Epstein was talking about President Trump multiple times in emails, despite Trump repeatedly denying he was in the Epstein files. Of course, we've long known that they were incredibly close friends, but Trump had denied he was in the files. Even after Attorney General Pam Bondi told Trump he was in the files, something, again, because of their friendship, he surely knew himself already, he continued to deny it.
Did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No.
Well, she had. And today, Attorney General Pam Bondi was seen leaving the White House after a meeting with the FBI director, other top officials, and Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert in the Situation Room. Why Lauren Boebert called to the Situation Room? Well, because she is one of 4 Republicans in the House who signed on this petition today to release the full Epstein files. And Trump also played phone tag today with another one of the 4 Republicans, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, throughout the day. The reason is that Mace and Boebert's votes are crucial, as was the vote of Adelita Grijalva. She was actually the deciding vote on releasing the files. So, being closed for 2 months meant they didn't have the votes, not till she was sworn in. In fact, Epstein survivors were actually there in attendance for Congresswoman Grijalva's swearing in because of how important she is to the Epstein files. But what the House has now, all of this new information that we're getting tonight, and it's new and important. It's important to mention it is only a minuscule fraction of what we are now one step closer to actually seeing. But in that minuscule fraction are important new details, and our reporters are still going through these new emails and documents that we have. But we know that they include exchanges like this one. Epstein emails now convicted accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell in part, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Maxwell responds, I have been thinking about that. And in June 2019, after Trump made a state visit to the United Kingdom, where he was welcomed by none other than the former Prince Andrew, Epstein wrote to Trump's former White House strategist Steve Bannon, quote, Prince Andrew and Trump today, too funny. Recall Prince Andrew's accuser came out of Mar-a-Lago, to which Bannon replied, can't believe nobody is making that connective tissue. Now, Trump, of course, has not been accused of any wrongdoing in connection with Epstein's crimes. But the president responded on social media today, and I quote, the Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. Of course, as always, when he calls it a hoax, it is important to point out that raping underage girls and being a registered sex offender for pedophilia is not a hoax. And Jeff Zeleny is out front at the White House to begin our coverage tonight. Jeff, what more are you learning about this extraordinary pressure campaign that the White House is mounting on Republicans voting to release the Epstein files? They're not really even trying to keep it secret at this point.
Well, the White House actually sought to explain this away as transparency, that they were briefing a member of Congress. That, of course, is Lauren Boebert, Republican of Colorado, as you mentioned, Aaron. But this was no ordinary briefing. We have never seen anything the likes of which rolled out like this. The Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, who, of course, was the one who questioned Ghislaine Maxwell a couple times a few months ago. He was on hand. The FBI director was on hand, a few other aides as well, and trying to pressure the Congresswoman to not sign that discharge petition, to take her name off of it. But that is only the beginning of this White House pressure campaign. For the next week now, Speaker Johnson has announced that there will be a vote of the full House next week to release the files, calling on the Department of Justice to release the files. That will not be the end of the story. Of course, the Senate would also have to vote, and that is a tall order. However, the number of Republicans who would decide to vote for this is very concerning to this White House. You heard Thomas Massey there, the congressman from Kentucky, who's leading the charge. He said there could be a groundswell. That is what the White House is hoping to avoid here. So for all of the other issues going on with the government shutdown likely to end this evening, so many other challenges on the president's plate, here at the White House, there was an all-out scramble today to try and stop this from going forward. But now that there is going to be a vote next week, this pressure campaign, I'm told, is going to keep up. They're trying to get other Republicans to not sign on to this. But Aaron, the vote next week will be very significant because, of course, people have their own careers to think about here. And the Epstein files cuts broadly across both parties. Aaron?
It certainly does. Certainly there's some basic morality, if nothing else. Jeff Zeleny, thank you very much. Sure. Out front now, Democratic Congressman James Walkinshaw. He sits on the House Oversight Committee, where, of course, those emails that we saw came from today. And the White House said, Congressman, of those emails, quote, prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. You've had a chance to go through them. I know they are a tiny fraction of what we don't know, right? That's still at the FBI, but nonetheless, they are still a lot of documents. Do you believe that they prove something else here?
Well, we don't know, but I think if you look at President Trump's behavior today, the way that he is absolutely panicking and desperately trying to get Republicans to take their name off the discharge petition to prevent a vote, he certainly seems like someone who's guilty of something. And that's why we need to see all of the files, have full transparency, and let the American people decide.
So I want to read again one of the exchanges that the committee released today, and a bit more of it. This was an email that Epstein sent to Ghislaine Maxwell in 2011. He writes, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there." To which Maxwell responded, "I have been thinking about that." Now, for anyone watching, they want to know what is that redacted name. And just to be clear, we know in the broader Epstein files, there are many, many, many women, hundreds of women mentioned. But this particular woman, in this case, we understand to be Virginia Giuffre from Republicans on your committee. They're saying that's who it refers to. She, of course, worked at Mar-a-Lago before working for Epstein, and she has not accused Trump of any wrongdoing. In her book, posthumously published a bit ago, she did not accuse him. Do you have a full understanding of the context of this email, Congressman?
Well, first, it was disappointing that earlier today, Republicans on the committee said that that name was Virginia Giuffre. As oversight Democrats, we're committed to protecting the anonymity of the victims and survivors. So I'm not going to confirm that that's the name that was redacted. But look, the answer to your question is we don't know. But the other answer is that's why we need to release the files. And as soon as next week, it sounds like, every member of the House of Representatives will have to go on record and decide and vote whether they're going to assist Donald Trump in this cover-up. And I hope my Republican colleagues will listen to the survivors that we've heard from and join with us in calling for full transparency.
The new documents came from the Epstein estate, right? To your committee, they came from the Epstein estate. I know you had subpoenaed these documents back in August. You released these today, right? So obviously this is the middle of November. What's happening behind the scenes on your committee right now?
Well, the documents that were released today were part of a tranche of documents that were received relatively recently. So the committee hasn't been in possession of these documents for a long time. And A large volume of documents comes in periodically from the estate, and staff, Republicans and Democrats, go through those documents, and that's the process that's playing out here. Look, this drip, drip, drip is really bad for Donald Trump. It would make a lot more sense for him to just say, let's release the full files and get it all out there and get it over with. Why doesn't he want to do that? What's in those files that he wants to allow this drip, drip, drip of bad news to continue?
And that, of course, is the crucial question. Congressman, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, obviously, on the Oversight Committee.
Well, we all know why Trump's in a panic mode, don't we? And he's the one that said that he knows that he's not going to go to heaven. Why do you think that is, huh? I'll attach the link. Let me know what you think. Pass it along, and thanks for listening.